Cool. Okay, I think we'll get started. So we have a couple of polls which I'm about to share. And while we're answering those, if you're happy to, Joe is just going to give us a quick introduction into how we have now got to the place where we've launched the second carbon calculator. So I'll hand over to Joe.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks everyone for joining. This is exciting. It's the first one we've done of these about the new tool that we have. So I think looking at who's here, most of you are familiar with the previous tool, but please do answer the poll when Lauren puts up. We had for those who don't know, we had a license for that particular tool for a number of years, and that was coming to an end. So we decided to build our own platform that could be more tailored to the industry and to the sector itself. So we've been working on that over the last 6 or 7, maybe 8 now months, and that's been released first to existing tool users about a month ago, and then we publicised it a bit more widely a couple of weeks ago. So as I said, this is the first one we've done of these. We've had some questions by email prior, so we'll talk a little bit about sort of how it's different to the old tool, the new one, a little bit about sort of transitioning to the new one, and then just some of the new tool features as well. And as Lauren said, please put any questions into the Q&A at the top, and we can answer those as we go along.
Great. So we're getting the answers in for the use of the old calculator, and it looks like 82% have used it before, but 17% haven't. So there are some people who are new. So I think with that in mind, I just thought do a quick introduction for those who might be brand new to AdGreen in total. So Jo is our global director. She's been leading on this new carbon calculator work that we've been doing. And Kat Long is here, who's our carbon calculator manager. And so many of you who have used it will have definitely been in touch with her. She is all things calculation. She will be answering your queries and getting your projects finished. So they'll be here to answer any questions you have. So please do put them in the Q&A that you should be able to find along the bottom. And I'm just going to start the second one just so we have an idea of what type of company people are working for who have come along to this chat, so we can make sure we also cover what might be most relevant to those who attended. So please do put those in. Great, and as we're getting those, we will start with our first questions. So we have some ones that were sent over. So first question, which is probably a big one for most, is what will happen to the old carbon calculator? Jo, do you want to take that?
Sure. So the old carbon calculator will exist up until mid-October. So I have some dates to share with you. We've actually extended some of the dates based on what we sent out, I think it was last week, the week before. So we've pushed them a little bit so you have a little bit more time to complete any projects and send them over for review. So you now have until Monday the 16th of September to send over any projects you'd like us to review and essentially want to get completed in the old tool before you switch over. After that, we'll have 2 weeks to review those as we have a 10-day reviewing period. And then from the 30th of September, the tool, any users of the old tool will lose the capability to edit, create or delete projects in the old tool. So you really have until Monday the 30th to make any edits, but your deadline to submit anything to us is prior to that. So if you want to complete any projects, you need to send them over or have them completed by us. You need to send them over by the 16th of September. Now, you will be able to download all of your data up until the 17th of October. So you'll be able to use the CSV download button to download your basic CSV, which is your kind of project level data, as well as your detailed CSV, which is your kind of activity level data. Excuse me. So you'll have that, you'll be able to keep that forever. And we'll be issuing some advice on sort of comparing old tool data with new tool data so that for 2024, you've got a full picture that essentially matches or equates to each other if you're looking at old and new tool data. So we'll be releasing some information about that in the coming months. You might notice in the new tool there isn't a download CSV button. We're working on that and hoping to have that in by the end of the year as well. So you'll be able to download your old projects from the old tool by the 17th of October and your new projects from the new tool by the end of this year. So you'll be able to do that year comparison. Oh, and I guess just to make sure anyone's thinking, oh, we're transitioning over, this is quite a big job, will we have to do this again in a couple of years? The answer is no. We now own this platform. So essentially you're going from a product that we license to something we now own. So this won't happen again. And if you are in the amazing position to have projects to sort of finish off, and you've been one of our super users, for instance, we applaud you, we thank you, and we ask you to make the transition with us, but you won't have to do it again.
So we have one that we've been emailed about, and then also has also been asked in the Q&A, similar. So the question originally was, why have the catering options been grouped together? And the one that's popped up in the Q&A is regarding beef specifically, no longer being listed as a meal option as it carries high emissions. So it was something they'd like to highlight and report. So they'd just like to know why that's gone.
Sure, so I can take this one. I worked on the sort of calculations and also the sourcing of the different carbon factors. So throughout the tool, we needed to make some decisions about how the tool was presented to the user. And whilst I said before, we have some amazing super users, we have a massive section of the industry that's not measuring at all. So we had to make a balance between satisfying those that were already using it and making it a bit easier for them as well. And also trying to get more users from the industry to get a bigger picture of the data across the industry. So to do that, we had to make some decisions to reduce some granularity. With regards to beef, it's something that a lot of people have mentioned, and we do have kind of an improvement list that we are keeping. And beef is one that's sort of bubbling to the surface. So although we only have at the moment meat and fish as an option, which is an average of the meat and fish options that there used to be, and vegetarian, there is a possibility that we could add a third option, which would be kind of a red meat option. So if you would like us to do that, we'd love to hear from you. So maybe we can have a poll there, perhaps, but I think I know what the answer would be. But just to kind of highlight that we are a non-profit, we are working on whatever we can to try and get the best outcome possible at all times. So what we've done for the moment is to try and get more users into the tool, and we can increase that granularity as we go forward. We totally get that some of the things we've taken away, like the beef option, is something that people use to kind of differentiate their their projects, in terms of the good decisions that have been made. So we understand that that's important to people. Other things like hotel ratings and different types of accommodation. So we're using a partner called Climateat to supply all of our factors. Those star ratings, there isn't a differentiation in the database that they have at the moment, although we understand they are actually improving that, and they've got some new data from the source that creates those hotel benchmarks. So it's something we could potentially be adding back in the future once that data becomes available. We couldn't find the same source that Albert had used, so we weren't able to add it in at the beginning, but hopefully we can bring that back as we go on.
Great. I just added the poll there, so we'll start to see those come in. Okay, we have how are companies assigned to the new calculator, and how do we invite them? Kat, do you want to take this on?
Just take that one, Joe. Yeah, so you do have to re-register for this new calculator, just because there is no way of moving your contacts from the old one to the new one, just because they are two different platforms owned by two different people. As Joe's already said, we own the new one, which will help us greatly. It's a very easy sign-up process, where you don't have to wait for us to approve you or to add you. You can literally just sign up. If your company is already registered, the admin for that account can either set it so that your domains are already accepted, or they will need to approve you. So that will be the only waiting time, is if your company is already set up and the admin needs to allow you access. So if anyone is struggling to find the link, it's on our website, but you can go there or get in touch with us at support and we will help you.
Great. So we have, I guess, similar to the chat before about the kind of improvements we're looking to make with the CSV downloads. Is there a way to see a diagram with percentages per activity like in the old calculator?
I think that was from Sarah Lou. Thank you, Sarah Lou. There isn't currently, and as Joe has mentioned, we are a not-for-profit. So everything we do is kind of based on your feedback and the funding that we have available. So it is something we have been looking at. And obviously, Joe has mentioned the CSV download. But ideally, we would kind of like to give users a more sophisticated kind of view of reporting and just how it groups everything. In the previous calculator, as some of you know, it would give you a pie chart and a bar graph of just the project and in your campaigns as well. As a lot of you will see, we've removed the campaign layer and you just see your projects. Ideally, we'd kind of like to be able to give users the ability to compare their projects based on, you know, filter functions, whether they're just looking at specific brands or whether it's, you know, specific agencies you've worked for if you're a production company. So it's something we are looking at. So any feedback on what you want to see and what's helpful for you and what you're communicating with your brands and your agencies is really helpful to us, just so that we can actually build something that reflects what users want to see as well. So watch this space.
Yeah, constantly evolving. So I tried out the new tool last week. The location to location isn't always known for road transport. So can we have distance? Jo, do you want to take that?
Very good news. As of yesterday, we have added distance as an option for so people transport where it's cars or taxis, and equipment transport where it's trucking or car couriers. So that is now there, which is great. So as Kat mentioned, we're kind of continually trying to improve things with the resources we have available. So that's one of the improvements we've made since launching. There are a few more in the pipeline. It just depends how many we can get through on our current kind of batch of dev time, basically. But these are all great suggestions, so it's great to sort of know what's important to you, you know, like the data dashboard, as Kat said. So yeah, that is now there.
So I started using the new calculator, but I can't find out how to complete or submit the project. Kat, do you want to take this one?
Yep, sure. So thank you, Sarah Lou, again. This is something that we found was a barrier in the old tool. So actually reviewing, because there was a 10-day turnaround, it's reliant on us as a team to do that. And there was only 2 of us doing it. And obviously, as Jo has mentioned, we are a not-for-profit, so very small team, very small funds available. So what we've done is actually removed that barrier with this tool. And the idea is that brands, agencies, production companies and production service companies, it's kind of your responsibility to make sure that you've put in everything that should be in there. And currently this is the kind of first iteration, the MVP of the tool version. So what we're looking to do is add in a few little bits, like being able to, and don't hold me on the wording of this, but mark a project as finished or something to that effect, just so there's kind of a rounding off and a completion of it in words. So yes, you will see it currently doesn't exist, but it is something that we are looking at. But the reviewing process has been removed just because of the kind of size of it, and looking at trying to get the larger projects into the calculator and getting people using it and getting used to it.
If I could just build on that as well, there were some other things that when we were designing the tool, so Kat and Toby, who'd be reviewing projects, noticed that oftentimes they were asking the same sorts of questions to people. Things like, you know, we've seen you've put in accommodation, have you put in kind of evening meals or additional meals? You know, we've seen you've got this material, but you don't have a disposal for it. So what we've done with the new tool is we've tried to eliminate the things that were being asked frequently to users by changing the design. So meals are now with accommodation, as well as separately in a catering section, for example. Disposal of materials is with the materials themselves within art department and within wardrobe. So the things that we were checking for, we've actually designed out of the system. So we don't, in effect, need to check for them anymore because we've made it more intuitive for the user. So I think the sort of key thing, I think, on that sort of point is that we obviously can't know that you've included everything. Only you will know that. As Kat said, you know, it's your responsibility to make sure you've put everything in. So our review was really a sense check of some things that we thought might be missing on a sensible level. And now that we've kind of removed that in terms of the design, we don't need to review, which helps you guys finish faster. You're not waiting on us to come back to you, as Kat said. You know, and freelancers have perhaps already finished and don't want to kind of carry on working on the project anymore. So we're hoping that's a bonus rather than a minus, or a plus rather than a minus.
So Agency-wise, the old format felt more for production companies as agencies were limited in certain information. Is the new format a collaboration between production companies and agencies based on each project?
Yeah, so basically we've made the new tool, as Kat kind of hinted at before. The old tool was quite restrictive in who could do what. Basically, once you'd defined yourself as a certain type of company, you then could only do certain things. So for example, brands were always reviewers, production consultancies were reviewers as well, they couldn't start projects. What we've done with the new tool is essentially taken away all the barriers that we could to make it as open as possible and therefore as collaborative as possible. So every company that joins the tool, and as Kat kind of touched upon, the sign-up process is very simple. It doesn't require AdGreen to set up the companies anymore, so that's also a lot quicker. Every company that sets up in the tool can create a project. Every company can invite other companies that are already using the platform to join a project. There isn't the need to invite individual users to a project anymore, which I know is quite confusing for a lot of people. So we've tried to take away all the things that were sort of confusing or meant you had to keep stopping and starting. So the idea is it's as collaborative essentially as you want it to be. We've made everything possible. It's really up to you guys how you use it.
Great. A more specific question. How do you differentiate between the different sizes of hard drives in the calculator? So, yeah.
I can take this one just on a technical level. There actually isn't really a difference. It's essentially the product. We worked with FilmLocker, who are kind of considered to be the experts in this field, to work out what the carbon impact of each drive is. And the amount that we have per drive is essentially an average for a drive of a certain a kind of range of drives that would be common to use in production. So there isn't really any difference between using a 4 terabyte or an 8 terabyte drive. It's essentially about the materials that go into making it, rather than the size of the drive. Where the size matters is in terms of cloud storage, which is something you can now measure as well. And that's based on how much you're storing and how long for. So that's where the size matters, but with the drives, it doesn't.
So we've got one about tracking fuel for cars. This person's found it difficult to track mileage across the board, as it depends on crew engagement and chasing figures. Is it possible to include fuel consumption as an option?
Do you mean as spend, or because
number of litres, I think, as opposed to mileage as part of that? Just fuel consumption. I know we previously used to have spend as some options, and there was a reason we decided to.
You could also in the old one put the quantity that in certain places.
We haven't got that. That's a great point. It's something I had not thought of until this moment. So thank you. We don't know. But I guess we were trying to make it easier in that most people know either where people went from and to, or the total distance they travelled in most cases. And I guess the amount of fuel would probably be the third likeliest to know. But we can certainly keep track of how many other people asked for that option, and whether we want to kind of upvote it up the kind of improvements list. But I will add it to the list so we have it on there.
Great. Yeah, after this webinar, we'll email around a list where you can add requests and sort of what you'd like to see, and then, as we said, we'll track it depending on how many people also would like to do that as well, and base it priority order that way. So please do tell us, because it's really useful to hear that. So when we sign up to the new platform, will this affect any data that is competing within the old platform? I know we've already run through the dates, but I don't know if you just want to clarify also, if anyone's joined since then, what will happen with the old platform's data.
Didn't quite catch all of your question, but I think I know what you're asking anyway, so that's absolutely fine. As Joe has already kind of alluded to and mentioned regarding the dates, the calculator will be you won't be able to access it from the 17th of October. So please download all of your data. As Joe has also detailed, either a basic or detailed CSV. I would recommend doing both, just in case. Also, it will just mean that you're kind of covered. So if you need to look into the data in a certain way, you can. What we're suggesting to people is there's kind of two options of how to handle this. If you have projects in the current calculator and you know they're not going to finish before the 16th of September, which is the final day to submit for review, we would suggest deleting that project and then restarting it in the new calculator. This is just so that if you look at the end of the year and you're comparing all of your completed projects or all of your projects across both platforms, there's no duplications. So you're not looking at a project twice and therefore your data's kind of not doubled up. So we would really suggest as soon as possible, really start using the new calculator and start winding down use of the old calculator. Your data will be available until the 17th of October. I will say that again, the 17th of October. So do download it before then, and you will not be able to edit, delete, or create anything new from the 30th of September. So, and we will be sending an updated email to all users of the calculator again with those dates, just so that everyone is aware. I think that answered the question, but please let me know if it didn't.
Here's a question which sounds like we wrote ourselves. So the old format was very time consuming. Is the new format quicker and simpler to use? Nice one.
Yeah, I saw this one. It definitely sounds like something we've written, but promise we haven't. Thank you to the person that wrote this. Yes, the whole point of, obviously we had our license that was going to come to an end, so we had to make a decision whether we would continue the license or make a new one. But making the new one has really given us a chance to kind of put in or incorporate all of the feedback we've had from our users over the past 2.5 years. Now, one thing to kind of bear in mind is that obviously for most people, and unless anyone used Albert previously, which is unlikely, for them, carbon calculating production was a completely new kind of task, a completely new thing on the to-do list. So it was always going to seem like somewhat of a challenge or a chore because it's new and it's something else that has to happen or happens during the production process. So given that, sort of having that in mind, I think we really wanted to try and make that as easy as possible. So what we've tried to do with the new format is make it so that it reflects production, first of all. So instead of having the 7 sections that we used to have, which were more about type of emissions, we've changed things so that they follow the sort of workflow of a production, generally speaking, because obviously there are nuances in different markets and, you know, the way that agencies work is slightly different to production companies, for example. But we've really tried to make it so that it kind of speaks your language. So you've got, there's essentially 10 areas where you can input information across the project. There's some areas that are duplicated. So for example, workspaces appears in a couple of sections. So does people transport, equipment transport, accommodation. So we've tried to make it as simple as possible. As a couple of people have already kind of alluded to, that has meant losing a tiny bit of granularity here and there, which obviously we might add back in, as we've said. But we've tried to make it so that it reflects the information that you guys have to hand. So I think wardrobe is my favorite example. You used to have to put in sort of a number of t-shirts or pairs of trousers, and also the sort of material they were made out of, which was very time consuming, a kind of a different form in effect for each kind of piece of clothing. So a lot of people will budget a wardrobe either as an amount of money or an amount of outfits. So we've actually tried to, well, we've eliminated all of the spend inputs in the tool. There aren't any spend inputs anymore, which I know some people might be frustrated by if that was something they used before, but they're not very accurate. And obviously, given this is a global tool, the spend in different countries can vary wildly. So it would require quite a lot of effort on our part to kind of keep up to date. So spend not being an option, we decided to make outfits the choice for wardrobe. Kat and Toby went to a big wardrobe warehouse and weighed, I think, around 120, 150 outfits.
And we can mention that it was through the help of the Styling Bank as well. So thank you very much to the Styling Bank for the help of that.
Fantastic. And through that, we've created some benchmarks of weight per outfit. So if it's a winter outfit, a summer outfit, for example. So we've tried to kind of really help you guys where possible. And where it's something that is more material, like, you know, transport, we know is usually the biggest thing, disposal is usually the smallest. We've tried to focus on the things that are really important, being the ones where we need the detail, and the things that are likely to be a much smaller part of your footprint, where we don't require as much detail. So for example, there's a lot less information we need around disposal now. For catering waste, we make an assumption as to the amount of waste based on the number of meals you've given us, for example. And that's included automatically. You don't have to tell us about that. So we've tried to make it much simpler. So in theory, it's much quicker to use. Now as well, For example, if you were putting in the utilities used at the studio or a location, you'd have to put in one by one. Now we've made that one form. Each thing is essentially one form. So the catering one, for example, covers off your food, the liquid sort of drinks with every meal. You can record your canned drinks, your plastic bottled drinks, any recycling of those items, any disposable eating and drinking materials you had, and it also includes that waste. So that one form covers off all those elements. So yeah, we've really tried to make it faster. You can be the judge, but that's the thinking behind it.
Right.
Lauren, before you move on to the next one, I maybe want to backtrack to my sign-in process, just to let users know that obviously also if you do create a new company when your company already exists and you've like started creating projects, please just get in touch with us. We can help with that. So I don't want anyone kind of freaking out if they've like, you know, started lots of work when the company already exists there, but please do check as well before you sign up. And then secondly, that for anyone who is on the call or is watching this later, who is from a company as a part of WPP, basically please wait for their comms to come out, as they are just kind of wanting to formalize it for all of their companies. So if you are from WPP, please hold off, or any of their affiliated companies. Thank you.
We probably have time for one more, so we'll do a quick one on, we've had two about offsetting. So is offsetting included in the new calculator? That's quite a nice quick one to
take that one, Cheryl. Do you want to take it?
I can take it, that's fine. Yeah, so we haven't included offsetting in the new calculator. Obviously, if you would like to offset, you're more than welcome to do that. We just aren't offering that through the tool at this time. We're kind of reviewing whether that's something we should be providing or not. It's never been provided by us. It was always just there if you wanted to do it. It was just giving you an easy pathway to do that. And that was really because it was included in Albert's tool, and therefore it had to be included in ours. So it wasn't something we had a choice about originally. So now that we do have a choice, we're just giving that some thought. So at the moment, it's not included, but if that changes, we'll let you know.
Yes, we really want to focus on reduction rather than kind of over-reliance on offsetting. So that's our kind of key message. As we are coming to the end, I think we'll leave it there. We have quite a few other questions, but if you'd like to, you can email us with these, and we will come back to you one-to-one. We can also look to share them. We'll create a blog post on the website and share these answers to these questions and some more if you want to send them through, so people can come back. But please do get in touch if you have more questions that you don't feel have been answered. And please do let us know what you think of the new calculator. I've shared the form here, and we'll follow up with an email to the bugs for any feedbacks or suggestions or bugs you might notice. You can let us know, but otherwise we'd love to know what you think. And thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.